Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Council Code, a podcast series from Volody. I'm Milind Kapile, VP of Sales and host of this podcast. Volody is a legal tech software company started in 2016, and our solution portfolio includes contract lifecycle management, litigation, and insider trading software. This podcast series aims to offer the legal community a valuable insight through the conversation with the top legal experts. We'll explore their professional journey, learnings, challenges, strategies, and viewpoints. We believe that this series will serve as a rich resource for our audience. After all, it's not about the law, but it's about the stories behind it. Today we have Naveen Kumari with us. Welcome, Naveen, to the podcast.
Thank you.
Naveen is a seasoned law professional with over 2 decades of experience across industries. Currently, she is acting as Associate Director, Legal and Compliance at Nidec Industrial Automation India Private Limited. Naveen started her legal career with Tata Steel as a manager legal and has working experience with several other corporates like Embassy Services as heading the legal department, with Wipro as manager contracts and compliance, ADC Communication as contract specialist. As a cross-functional team player, her key expertise is contract drafting and negotiation, litigation, legal advice and opinion, and managing compliances, including automation of the legal processes. Thank you, Naveen, for taking time out to join the podcast. Looking forward to the great conversation.
Thank you. Same here.
All right. So, Naveen, how did you got into the field of law?
My father was a registrar in the High Court of Karnataka, and it was my brother's passion, and he just pulled me into it, and that is how I got into law. And then I realized that, law is for me.
Okay. So interesting story. And what drives your passion for it and what motivates you?
When you talk about law, I just think of good conscience. You bring in fairness, equity, and you are a policy maker. So much positive vibes I see when you talk law as such. So that itself is a passion,
Okay.
You need to spread awareness among people that you have to act in good faith. And that is what law is all about.
All right. That's an interesting story again. I mean, you almost having 2 decades of experience, and so it will be useful for the audience. Can you share your journey in the legal professional and highlight some of the key roles?
Yeah, like when I started my journey from Tata Steel, so initial, days, wherever you go in the organization, that is where you learn, you observe things, you try to understand, the interaction between the team members, and so many new things you come up because it's a new place for us altogether. But as you gradually grow, you go into different organization, and you would have already had a bit of experience on how to deal with things and all that. The maturity also, comes in by default. But then after going to, companies, like when you have around 10 years or 15 years of experience, then you start looking organization at a totally different perspective. You would want to see that what is this company is missing from the legal perspective. What is this department, it is where it is not functioning, where it is necessary. You try to grab those opportunities and try to bring in those areas where your expertise lies, and you think the company as a whole and how would you be able to contribute to the company and bring in new things which is not available in that existing companies, because certain times it so happens that company would not, based on your experience obviously, you would say that nowadays, thinking of the contract management, there's so many things into contract management. Every company would not have it, so we need to bring in some techniques into it. It's with modern technologies, we have to use that and adapt it to the company's lifestyle. That is where our area of expertise lies in.
Okay, you mentioned about contract lifecycle management, and of course you have one of the key strengths is of course your contract management and negotiation. So what is your opinion on the effectiveness of contract lifecycle management platform in the modern legal departments?
Yes, this is again booming in now. Earlier it was not that recognized. And
Correct.
when you go to a small law firm or a lawyer's office, the first thing a junior would get is to arrange the files.
Yeah.
And maybe at that point of time, the lawyers or the juniors would feel that they are not giving us scope to learn. But that is one of the essential things a lawyer should learn, as to how to manage, how do you have the record of all the documents, how many cases are there, how many contracts are there. So it has become a very essential part of an organization to showcase, even in the legal perspective, legal division as such. You need to showcase how much contracts you are able to execute. It's just not that you interact, you negotiate the contract and close it, but how much deal you are bringing in to the company. And obviously the reports and trackers are very much important. So keep considering that in mind. And it's a fast pace where you have to have everything on your table. So this concept of contract lifecycle management is very important. Now we need to show it in figures. We need to show as graphs to the management that this is how the improvement is going on, how much deal we are able to get it, and how much we are losing. So that is playing a very important role, and I have seen quite a few tools that is beneficial to an organization. And I think every organization should have a CLM tool, which is very much important, either on a litigation side or on a corporate side. And there are more to it. It's when you talk about a legal department, it's about compliances, it's about contract management, it's about litigation management. So there are much more to it, and CLM plays a very important role for an organization.
Absolutely agree with you. I mean, today is a era, basically CLM is no more a sort of basically nice to have solution. It's a must to have solution.
Must to have solution. Yes.
Yeah, and there are a lot of automation which is coming, including the AI features, so making the life of the lawyers easier.
Yes.
So I agree with you actually. I mean, every organization needs to have the CLM in place, and I think even including the small organizations, of course the enterprise has some sort of CLM in tool place, but I mean, we are looking actually the medium and as well as the small organizations are also going for having some sort of tool in place. Okay, so having worked with multiple organizations, again the challenge comes actually to adopting yourself with the different organizations. So how did you tackle the first 90 days in any organization when you joined them?
Initial days of your career, and it's a new, like for example 1 year, 2 years of experience, 5 years of experience, you will only absorb things, you will learn a lot of things. You wouldn't have had the practical knowledge on how to deal with a situation where there is a negotiation going on, or for a matter like somebody is coming up and talking about things like how something is not working out. Then as a legal profession, how would you deal with it? It would be you will learn from your seniors, obviously. Correct. In a corporate, we are not only interacting with the legal professional, we are interacting with a lot of operational people, marketing, and there are various verticals, right? So but as you grow, like once you are you have gained sufficient experience, you would realize that we have to go in line along with the operational team, marketing team, the business development team. So it brings a great it carries a heavy weight of your knowledge that you have, and how you take along with your other team members really matters. As a company, we have to work along with the team members. Like, for example, if you're a lawyer, you're only talking about legal language. But as an in-house counsel, we are also business people. I think I'm part of a business when I'm in the organization. I'm not just a in-house counsel. I'm also a lawyer. Yeah.
Correct. I agree with you. Actually, for us, basically to adapt with the new organization culture, and as well as dealing with the multiple stakeholders in the organization, different vertical business units. Again, it's basically a little bit challenge, but I mean, of course, as you said, it's basically experience matters in such situations, and basically it helps basically to sail through some such type of situations. As basically working as a in-house counsel, So how do you see the role of in-house counsel change over a period of time, and how do you think it's go way forward actually on this?
So the role of in-house counsel is, it's not like a lawyer who practices in the court, like I told. So
Yeah.
the role of in-house counsel is try to bring in a lot of compliances. For example, like you need to see what is not available as a a legal since you carry a legal framework behind you, that needs to be portrayed as a
Correct.
company. You need to showcase that we are, like, for example, 100% compliance is what any company should be. And there are certain companies, before starting the deal itself, they talk about what are the compliances that you are doing and how do you implement such compliances.
Correct.
There are certain companies, as a customer, when they come forward, they ask these questions.
Correct.
So we should be able to showcase that we have all these compliances in hand, and we have to, that needs to be portrayed very well. We need to practice and show that, like, for example, having trainings, regular trainings on anti-bribery trainings and many other code of conduct. How do it needs to be implemented among the people, and as a some of the top customers would like to see that before they enter into a deal with the other company. So, like, for example, due diligence, that is also very important. So due diligence plays a very important role.
Absolutely.
They as a company, before you start, like, for example, certain companies will have, the first step is to do the due diligence and then to see continue the business. Although the deal would have been under discussion for many months or etc., but still having a background of what the company does, how ethical they are, it is very important to understand that.
Yeah, I agree with you actually. And managing litigations or it itself is a big challenge for any organization. So I see basically you're being brought up a lot of new processes actually in some of the organizations.
Yes. Yeah. So, like, for example, litigation. So as a lawyer, again, when I say lawyer, there is this practicing lawyer who will handle our cases. Corporate cases. So sometimes it so happens that we have a lawyer who is taking care of the cases. We don't go deep into looking into that matter. But what I feel is that even though I'm an in-house counsel and I have engaged a lawyer as such, it is necessary for me to understand what the case is, what is the status of the case. And in fact, one of my senior has advised, whether it is minor case or major case, because you're a local person, you're able to travel, it's not an issue for traveling. So each case we are supposed to attend. So we are going to sit with the lawyer and see how our case is put forth in the court. As an in-house counsel, that is how I should be, right? But instead of leaving it to the litigating lawyer to deal with it and come back and say that it's done. I would like to see those petitions, applications. I would like to go through that. I would be reviewing it, how I review a contract document in the in the company while sitting in the company. Similarly, I need to review all the litigation papers also as equally as any other document. And instead of leaving it to the in-house counsel, we should go in line with them, go in par with them, and that is where I feel that we should also attend the courts equally along with the practicing lawyer.
Yeah, that's a very good input actually. I mean, again, you will be finding it involving with so many things actually. I mean, how you're able to manage actually. I mean, because you need to do some prioritization as well, right?
Yes. Yeah. Prioritization is important. Then, but that doesn't mean that you have to let go certain things. We have to, everything is very much important. Like when you think a legal department in a corporate, there would be many aspects to it. Like for example, CLM, which is a very important thing that one company should have in the legal department. Similarly, you have litigation, you have contract management. Everything is important. Nothing can be let go on. But yeah, as a priority, we have to take what is important. Prioritizing is good, but that doesn't mean that you will let go the other things. I think whatever aspect that we deal as a legal person in the corporate, I think everything is equally important. It's just that you prioritize and you pick up what is important as of today or as on now or something. But I think everything is very much important. I think managing a CLM tool itself is also a very important aspect of a legal department. Yeah.
So contract negotiations are always been complex, right? And working with IT services companies and maybe working with the services companies, that's again a challenge. So do you want to share some of your stories here related to contract negotiation?
Contract negotiation is something very challenging, but interesting as well. When you start off negotiation, it varies. If it is a customer contract, and if it varies completely if it is a supplier contract or vendor contract. It's like customer is God, so you need to get the deal. And what I have seen from my experience is that the corporates, you have this business development team or the marketing team, they just want the deal.
Correct.
Taking that document to legal would be a stop, breaker for them. They wouldn't they just want to close the deal.
Correct.
And everything is fine. But when I point out certain restrictions, with this provision, we just can't go ahead. Correct. Or this is not safe for us to go ahead. And this is one-sided contract. We cannot we cannot sign this. Or the liability is open liability. We cannot accept at all. But the business development team wouldn't see in that way. It's a business deal that is coming up, and a huge contract or a very good brand, and with whom we are entering into the transaction. As a legal person, it is my duty to showcase the liability, the risks that the company will have to face if at all something goes wrong. So usually they say that nothing like that will happen because we have a very good relationship and all that. But still, as a lawyer, we are talking only about, unfortunately, we talk only about negativities, because that is how we protect ourselves by bringing up all these cases. And then ifs and buts are too much in negotiation. But overall, what I feel is that somewhere you have to bring a win-win situation. Where when you are working with a customer, that's why when I say, like, we are not just an in-house counsel, we are also a business people along with the other divisions of the company. So we are trying to close a deal. I am not just negotiating, I am also trying to close a deal. I am also the operation person, I am also the marketing person, and there are I know my limitations, and I see where I can say that I need to give assurance that we will give you a good service if you enter into this contract. Nevertheless, whatever is written in the document. But then again, if that is the case, then why agreement at all? If that is how they would talk. But it is very we have to bring in a very subtle way of closing things, and put something in writing, and be emphasizing on what is my responsibility, what is the customer's responsibility, what are the liabilities that I can take up, and what I can't take up. That needs to be put out in the contract effectively. That is where again, like I told, we are playing as our role is much more than an in-house counsel. The concept of in-house counsel is much more wider, unlike practicing lawyer.
Completely agree with you, actually. I mean, steering the ship, navigating actually along with these ups
Yes.
and downs. Actually, again, negotiation itself is a very, very lengthy
Yeah.
process, and it's a tough
Yeah.
process as well. Actually, I mean,
Yeah.
working with the team members, because
Mm-hmm.
as a legal, basically, you are being responsible for really legal language
Yeah.
interpretations when you are signing a contract or finalizing a deal, right? So it's very important that you have basically put the right format, right wording actually of the contract,
Right.
and protect your organization. That's again a tough job actually a lawyer has. And you also have a working experience with managing the compliances as well, right? Especially POSH compliances, right? So do you want to throw some light on this, managing the compliances, including the POSH?
Sure. POSH, yeah, like I told, compliances are very important for any organization. And
Mm-hmm.
POSH, yeah, if you are a team member or the POSH committee member,
Mm-hmm.
there are certain ways of conducting a POSH case. So bringing awareness among the people. How many POSH member will be aware of how to conduct the case? That is very much
Okay.
important.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody talks about POSH, and everybody are aware about it. There is, the notice is put all over the companies where the employees can see that there is a committee formed, there is a training that is happening, but it is the members also who should be proactive,
Okay.
in communicating the POSH rules and regulations among the employees.
Mm-hmm.
So there are NGOs who will be part of the committee,
Okay.
and the NGO person wouldn't be having the legal background, although they would have handled all the legal POSH related cases, and they would have experienced, in handling such incidents. But then they wouldn't be having the legal framework or the legal provisions. I think more on the legal provision, exactly what the legal provisions talk about. So again, as a legal person, you need to bring in that as a part of committee member. You need to give a lot of trainings to not only to the employee. If you are a lawyer, if you are an in-house counsel and you are part of the POSH committee, it is your duty to ensure that each committee member knows how to handle a case. And like, for example, it is the civil procedure code which needs to be followed, and whether all the team members are educated on that, is very much important. They should be able to, they should understand the criticality of the incident, and they should handle. That is very much important, I feel, and that is required in any organization. So I think more focus should be on the team members who should be well versed, and who should be able to handle if any case comes independently. For example, if there is a case where the victim wouldn't want to speak in front of all the team members,
Correct.
there are 4-5 members, there is a chance that the victim may not open up.
Correct.
So one of the team members should be able to sit with that person, make that person feel comfortable, so that the person can talk what has happened, and we can give a fair justice and take decision on such cases.
You'll be using actually a lot of technologies, right? Actually, for the contract lifecycle management, litigation, and of course for the compliance management, AI is basically playing a big role actually in all these applications, and as well as day-to-day life for the lawyers. What is your view actually on the AI actually into the legal fraternity, and how do you see that the legal jobs are getting changed over next 5 years? As well, do you see basically it's a threat or opportunity?
Threat or opportunity, yeah. I heard recently there's something called deep space. I think that that is deep space. So I heard that will take, even the emotions will be captured in that. I don't know how far it is true, but this is what is just an hearsay. But AI is something is like, for example, the juniors. I remember one of my lawyer friend complaining that juniors, when you ask them to do some research or something, they just put it in AI and they give a big write-up. And like for another person, it would be like, wow, you have theory written out completely. But somewhere the essence of the actual, what do you say, the practical reasons are not coming out in that. You have to, AI cannot understand emotions.
Right.
So you cannot bring in reality. It is still a tool that is created by a machine.
Right.
But you need to bring in emotions. When I, like, for example, Posh, there should be a lot of emotion as a
Correct.
team member. I have to be empathy.
Correct.
Empathy is a very important aspect.
Correct.
So when I draft a contract, for example, I need to understand the business. I need to see how well I'll be protected. And like again, I'm repeating certain things here, but when I negotiate a contract, I need to understand what the supply is, what the service is. It
Correct.
would be something related to a machine, which is like how the machine would work and what kind of issues will crop up if the machine, breaks down. So all these things I will have to think while entering into a contract. So each and every time I can ask AI, I put these things, but there are some more into it where only a person can deal with it and try to find out what is missing. Like, for example, I have to put in a statement where I would like to have a good relationship with this corporate or with this company or with this agency. I do not want anything to go wrong. In that, the words would be more smoothly written, so that you are able to put forth your point, and then also you would also ensure that what you wanted to expect them to have is already written there. So I think there is some AI is not a threat according to me. It's only an opportunity we can take it as. And similarly, like, if you it's an opportunity. I feel it's purely an opportunity, and make good use of it. And yeah, like, there's so many, we have evolved from time to time.
Correct.
And we have got a lot of methodologies that has improved. We have technology coming in day to day. We have never felt threatened, but we have always improved, and much more things are coming in the coming future. So this also should be taken as a as a day-to-day evolving technology. That's it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, actually. I mean,
yeah.
There was an example, like, basically when the calculator itself has come, the people threatened basically it will take our job. Even that happened actually with the PCs also, laptops also, and industry revolutions also. But everything, basically, any change in the technology is always assisted the human beings basically to make more out of it.
Yes,
so AI is basically
an assistant.
It's an assistant actually. I mean, we are seeing basically the AI will definitely progress going forward and will bring a more productivity actually to the legal community. Yes. So my last question is, what advice you would like to give to the young professionals who want to start actually the career in the legal field?
For the young professionals, yes, it is very challenging but very interesting. And as a basic requirement, one should as a young professional, one should go deep into research. Law is nothing but research. We depend on precedents. We need to understand how the history has evolved. So that is very much important. And every day is a learning. Every day is a learning, and however experienced you are, you still find some loopholes where you need to improve. And I think research is a very big tool that one should practice initially from the beginning itself. And then second important aspect is communication, where communication is a very important tool again. As a legal professional, you need to communicate in a way which is, like I told, how well you convince the other party is very much important. And it is all depending on the communication and the research knowledge what you have got. So communication is very important. Again, when I talk about communication, it is about networking. Networking is also very important. Nobody is less or nobody is more. It's just that you're sharing things. And I think the more one, as a legal professional, one should understand that you are there to spread the awareness. instead of keeping it to oneself, it is always better to spread the information, spread the knowledge amongst anyone and everyone. That is how it should be. And as a young professional, all these habits, if they are initially developing or putting it into their life cycle, it will be really great for the person themselves, and also for the organization they're working, and for the country, obviously.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for this guidance. Nice words, actually nice guidance to the team members. So we'll move to the rapid fire question round. All right. So my first question is, what the one word that comes to mind when I say contracts?
Liability. Yeah.
What's your favorite legal term or phrase?
Rights.
Okay. What's the biggest myth about being an in-house lawyer?
A myth about the in-house counsel is counsel cannot be a practicing lawyer. That is wrong. Yeah.
All right. What's the one skill lawyer needs that isn't taught in the law school?
Okay. I think it's a practical knowledge. I think it is not restricted to law school alone, but for any other profession. Practical knowledge is something which you gain, which cannot be taught in the classroom. And only when you come out and be there, done it, that is where you get the experience. And theory and practicals are two different aspects, which has to be there for any individual to come up in his career.
What's the best piece of advice you have ever received?
Be yourself. Be yourself. I think the more you try to showcase something else which you are not, maybe that will turn up into more messier. So it's just be yourself, and that should take care of everything. Yeah.
What's the most important value a lawyer should have?
I think it's a standard line which we all have as a lawyers. We would have seen in our classrooms, and which we have been taught. I think that should be used practically also when you're dealing with any kind of situation. That is fair, equity, and good conscience. I think we should practice using that anytime and every time.
Yeah. Do you prefer courtroom drama or boardroom strategy?
Both are equally important. And as a lawyer, you're a lawyer. When we take up law, the first thing that comes to our mind is courtroom. So I would still prefer courtroom drama. Yeah.
What's your favorite way to start your day?
A cup of coffee.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
My last question, what's your success mantra?
Hard work.
Okay.
And be humble. You will get into the track. Yeah.
All right. Come to the end of these questions. So do you want to share anything with the audience?
Nothing much. I think I have covered almost. But only thing is, as an in-house counsel, we tend to be more proactive in many other things. It's like you are setting up a law firm, or practicing law as a lawyer in the courtroom. I think we all stand on the same page. Our objective is same, even though we are working as an in-house counsel. The objective will not differ.
Right.
We all work for one particular goal, and that is justice. That is where that is where we try to bring forth, whether it is a in-house counsel or a practicing lawyer, and we should uphold that at any cost.
All right. So thank you very much, Naveen, for being here today. And it was a great conversation with you. And definitely audience will definitely take some of the learnings from this conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.